we're starting now. This is the Manhood Academy interview / debate / who knows what this is. This guy's connection is really shitty. I don't know if we're going to be able to even air this debate on our YouTube channel. It might, or this interview on our YouTube channel. The sound quality might be shitty. I'll try to repeat his questions so nobody will have to strain too much. What do you want to be referred to as during this interview?
Anarchy ABC.
Anarchy ABC is fine. Okay, so we have Anarchy ABC with us, and miscellaneous audience members who may wander in during the time while we're interviewing. Okay, go ahead and hit it. Hit us with your questions.
So I think I've listened through most of the debates you have online. So I almost, when I first saw your site and read through most of your book, I was emotionally attached to the way you talk about feminism, whatever. Obviously, you know that lots of people feel that way. But, just
emotionally
yesterday.
Attached how?
Well, is it reading about what you say feminism is versus what, I think.
Right, but which way were you emotionally attached?
Oh, is it reading someone say what I think? So basically you said feminism is thought of as, egalitarianism, but really feminism is about women, taking over what's men's or something like
right.
that. So, it evokes an emotional response,
Right.
Well,
I'm asking what type of emotional response?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not that, I don't know. I'm not a psychoanalyst.
No, I mean, you can have an emotional response like yay, or you can have an emotional response like fuck.
Oh, yeah. It's more like fuck. This is bullshit.
This is bullshit. So you have an emotional response. This is bullshit. The Academy's bullshit. Okay, now it's clear. Because it sounds like you're a fan at first, like you're emotionally woo. And now you're like, bullshit.
Sorry. I never tried to say that. So, but I realized yesterday it almost doesn't matter.
Okay.
All of the feminists who called in and were trying to tell you were wrong. I realized because it doesn't matter, because even if you realized that, or you came to the conclusion that feminism was about egalitarianism, and not about taking over, taking from men or even dominating men, is that you still don't believe the sexes should have equal access to the same, gender roles, I guess, is what.
Should have equal access to same gender roles. I'm not sure what that means. You should have
equal
access.
You still would believe, even if feminism was, just about parity, you still believe that women shouldn't work.
Yeah, but, to believe that feminism is about parity or equality or egalitarianism is to completely misunderstand what feminism is.
I'm saying, but even if we argued about that, it doesn't matter, because to you, even if it was, you still don't believe women are smart enough to have the same jobs that.
Yeah, but I'm saying the very notion that it could be is wrong. You're saying even if it was, like as if there was a possibility for it to be that. It can't be that by definition, is what I'm telling you. It's not possible for that to happen. It's like saying, even if, I don't know, something simple. Even if the person didn't stab that guy over there, it's not possible for him. Even if that guy stabbed him, he wouldn't be a murderer. The very definition of, or the fact that he's stabbing him is the definition of murder. So, just like feminism, the very fact that the way it's set up, or the way it tries to, create equality, you're making unequal things equal. Like you're saying a woman can have a child and a man can't have a child. It's a biological function of being a woman, of being a female. The fact that you're trying to equalize these two unequal entities is a problem right off the bat. You can't, it's not possible. So to say there is a possibility of equality is to completely misunderstand what feminism's message is even saying.
I think that's a misunderstanding of the word equal. And then we can talk about this, but so to say that a man can have a baby would be ridiculous, right? So men and women are equal the same way. I'm not equal to other men, and one woman is not equal to other women. So that term equality is. Well,
I think it's mostly understood. The notion you're getting at is what we talk about in our ebook is unequal functions, right? If a man doesn't have a womb, he obviously can't bear a baby. So his function isn't to bear a baby. So in men and women, we obviously see unequal functions. But we're talking about worth, like as human beings, you need air more immediately than you need water, right? You will die sooner if you lack air, oxygen, versus if you lack water. You can go without water for a lot longer period. But that doesn't make them unequal in worth. Like if you remove water from the equation and we only give you air, you're still gonna die in either case. Whether you have just air or, just water. So these are both necessities, so they have equal worth.
Right.
Just like women.
I saw that. I agreed with you on the chat room. I think it was last week someone was arguing that what you just said was indicating that, water is more valuable than air. I did agree with you on that point. I don't think that's an applicable analogy to the sexes. I mean, that one function, bearing children, I guess I just don't see how that very primitive biological trait relates to the modern, workforce or the modern work.
Well, if you don't have women bearing children, everybody dies, and then there's no human race. So I don't know how that's not even how you don't see the relevance.
So you believe that feminism inherently will lead to no women bearing children?
No, I'm just using it as an analogy to talk about worth as persons, meaning if a woman has one function like bearing children or 99 functions, the number of functions is not the relevant issue.
Right.
What's relevant is the necessity issue. Just like you need water, you need air seemingly sooner than you need water because you can last longer without water than you can without breathing. But the fact that you still need water means that they're equal in worth. You understand what I'm saying? So just because a woman maybe only have one function or two functions versus a man's 70 or 80 functions, that doesn't mean the woman is any less worthless. The issue is not.
We both agree.
The issue is not the number of functions or the number of things you can do. That doesn't determine whether a person is worthy or not. So
you just said women 2 functions, men 7
as
functions.
An example. I'm not literally saying that women have 2 functions. I'm saying it as an example. Even if men had 1 billion functions and women only had 1 function, they would still be equal in worth. The number is not relevant. I'm not emphasizing, I just threw out an arbitrary number. I'm saying the point is that the functions or the number of functions don't dictate the worth. The fact that they're a necessity, that they cannot be removed from the equation is what gives them worth.
Right, and aside from the bearing children function, I guess I don't see where these other functions are that are inherently male or inherently female. Straight semen, bearing children. Aside from those, the sexual reproduction function, I don't get.
You don't see for example, women are obviously more emotional than men. Do you think that men have the same emotional makeup as women?
No, but I also don't think all women have the same emotional makeup as all women.
Well, would you say by and large that women as a whole are more emotional than men as a whole?
I don't know. I don't know if that. I guess I would if I were to say yes. Like you were saying when I said I had an emotional response, right? You said, was that an emotional response? Yes, I agree with that, or bullshit. It's like that term emotional. It's hard to know what that really means, and I don't think it matters. I don't care, I guess, because if if all women are different, if some women might be less emotional than some men, and if that's the case, then what you say about it sounds like your position is because the majority of women are more emotional than men, then all women should stay away from business.
Stay away from business. Yeah, well, as by and large, when we're talking about generalities, let's say we couldn't make generalities. How could we even have a society? How could we even have laws? How could we have social policies if there's no uniformity between genders or even between people?
If there's no uniformity?
Yeah, if there's no, how could we even have communication if we don't have a standard of English, if we don't have a common standard, if a generality of what we should be speaking or how we should be speaking? If we don't have this general notion, this general standard, this generalization, how could we even communicate?
Well, we communicate on an individual level.
No, we don't. I'm speaking English. You understand I'm speaking English.
Yeah.
If somebody came to the United States, we'd expect them to speak English. We wouldn't expect them to, somebody coming from China to speak Chinese and we all adapt and just say, oh, that guy's individual. You wouldn't get a job.
Right, but in terms of, let's say the word emotional can mean many things, or one general thing, but we both have to communicate.
Well, why do writers, in popular magazines, popular publications say that women have emotional intelligence? Why even apply it to women then? Why not apply it to men too? What's the point of even making a distinction?
Well, they might be saying more women generally have.
Why could you say generally then? Why could you say generally is my point. Why can't you make that?
There's two. They're both necessary. When you look at,
what are we talking about necessary? We're talking about whether these things apply generally to a certain class of people.
Yes, that's what you start out saying, but your whole, it looks like your whole site then says, so that means all women should stay at home and cook for the husband.
Yes.
Okay, so when I take my kid to the doctor's office, I've got a 3-year-old daughter.
Okay.
We look at generalizations across the board in terms of what are her diagnostics, where is she, what is her head size, right?
Right.
Sometimes her head size is much larger than the average.
Right, okay. So, sometimes her fingers are longer than the average. But does a doctor go by, what are all the exceptions to the rule? Let's diagnose people according to their exceptions. Or they go, this may be an abnormality due to an extra chromosome, or this person may have a bad diet, or this person may be living near a nuclear power plant, accounting for these abnormalities, or do they go, this is the general norm and the standard, and we're looking at this patient and diagnosing them according to the general norm and the standard, and not taking the deviation to as the norm and how we should treat them. We should suddenly change the treatment.
What consistently happens is that, I mean, a good thing to do is to say, okay, generally across the board, your daughter has a smaller head size, which could mean that her brain is not developing at a good pace for a child. But I know your daughter, and she passes all of these other tests, so we're not going to look to the generals because I know specifically that her brain is developing fine. So you look at the generalizations.
Well, you're talking about a complex diagnosis about whether her brain is developing fine. That's a very complex diagnosis. That's not something you could simply say with 100% certainty. So there's a little leeway on that example. But the point is, regardless, he's still not going to say, well, because her head is smaller or bigger than the norm, we're going to treat this deviation from the norm as the standard. The point is, he's still going to go to the standard and look, because he has more experience saying, oh, these people that generally speaking, person comes in, they have a certain head size at a certain age, and then we're going to apply this and make this the standard, because that's what I see in my daily observations. That's what I see repeated over and over again. And this deviation doesn't appear normal. This doesn't appear like it's it's suddenly going to keep repeating as this, this abnormal head size is going to be the new standard from now on. It's a deviation, and they recognize deviations, but they don't say that, they don't take them and suddenly go, well, we need to change the treatment program because this person's head size is different. We need to change the medicine because this person's head size is different.
Okay, so maybe I don't understand what you disagree with for what I just said.
Disagree with concerning what?
I don't understand why. It sounds like you're saying it's true that the doctor looks at across the board generalizations of what head sizes should be,
right? And
then looks at one person and determines not necessarily how their brain is developing by that head size, but by head size plus other instances, and that their head could actually be much larger.
Right, but they would say this person is deviating from the norm, and it's not a standard thing. Therefore, it's not indicative of normal behavior. So, for example,
because our head sizes
I'll give you an example. I'll make it a more applicable example to what you're talking about. Women are generally weaker than men. They're not as athletic as men. Their knees aren't built for, biologically speaking, their knees aren't built for the type of strenuous activity that men do. We have posts in our visitor section. You can go look them up. But every now and then, there's a Russian weightlifter chick who can lift more than guys, and usually women of her, comparable to her in her size. Does that mean that suddenly we should let women into the police force, or suddenly let women be firefighters because this one abnormality exists out there? No. We still look at this general standard and we say women are, generally speaking, weaker than men and don't have the physical capacity to do these physical jobs. It doesn't matter if this one woman can do it. We're looking at the general population. We have to make a policy or a legal precedent based on this general norm that we recognize, that we all acknowledge, and that is that women are weaker than men. So that's how we should set the policy, not based on the exception to the rule.
Well, how about you set it so that you see if they can perform physical duties? Like, why would you take a wimpy man who couldn't lift?
Because even for the Russian strong woman out there, who is stronger than the average woman, there are countless men who are way stronger than her on average. I mean, we haven't posted a video of Jill Mills, the world's strongest woman, being beaten by 3 average guys. Or one guy lost to her, but the other two, they're not huge, and they still beat her. So this tells us just in general, men are on average stronger than even the strongest woman. So if this is the case,
I went to go see that YouTube video, or those YouTube videos. And then I went and saw YouTube videos of girls about my size beating guys who are much bigger.
Once again, there are girls who can beat guys, but if across the board, you could always find a guy who's going to beat a girl. Always. So why, if that's the case,
why are you saying if I'm gonna hire firefighters, why is it that I first need to know if they have a penis or a vagina?
Because on average, if we know that men are stronger, then we obviously want the better candidate, which is always going to be the man in this case.
But unless the better candidate is stronger woman.
Again,
I don't understand why a very strong woman.
That would mean that there wasn't a stronger man qualified for the job, which would be bullshit. We would know, even if the world's strongest woman, if the average guy can beat the world's strongest woman, obviously there's more male candidates who are going to be qualified for that position.
But that's in arm wrestling.
The very fact that we have affirmative action and we have to lower standards for women just so they can get jobs is a testament to this bullshit. I mean, if women were seriously more qualified, there'd be no thought of affirmative action. We just let the strongest woman apply or the smartest woman apply.
But you said you don't want, but you just demonstrated that might not be the case because you don't want a strong woman to apply. You don't want
You're not even paying attention to what I just said. I said there are strong women out there, even women who are stronger than men, but on average, you're always gonna, even for that abnormality, that one who's an abnormal case, there's still gonna be average men who are stronger than her.
There might be, right?
What do you mean there might be? What do you mean there might be? The average guys are beating the strongest woman in the world, Jill Mills. What do you mean there might be?
Compared to that one, that's an arm wrestling competition. It's not.
Yeah, that's just indicative of one thing. I'm sure. What do you think? Women would start beating men if we put them in a ring, in an MMA ring with men? Are you insane?
I think some women would beat some men.
Oh, you've been watching way too many girl power films. There's no way men would refuse to fight because they'd be so worried about crushing a woman. I don't know if you've ever heard any interviews from MMA fighters because they've been talking about including women in men's weight classes. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, what?
I've never watched an MMA.
Okay, well, an MMA match is pretty much, not everything goes, not eye gouging, but it's basically just a free-for-all fight. One fighter against another fighter. If you put a woman in there, in the same weight class as a man, she's gonna get terminated. She's gonna get destroyed.
Okay, so they're huge guys with huge muscles, I guess, is that what you're saying?
Not necessarily even huge guys. There's some guys, different weight classes, small guys, skinny guys. So.
But still.
The male ability is so much, more advanced than the female ability. If you put a woman in the same weight class, she's gonna get destroyed.
So, it's hard for me to see that this trickles down though to, a standard town who's, hiring women or men, women or men in the standard workforce, maybe not MMA wrestlers.
Well, firefighters, the military, police department, I'd say these are pretty standard occupations. And if you put underqualified women in there, based on affirmative action, because they only have to do like 14 push-ups where a man has to do 50 push-ups, that's endangering your society. What do you want? What do you want? Do you want, if you want a woman who got in on affirmative action rescuing you in a fire, or do you want a guy who's actually qualified, who meets the standard requirements to pull you out of a burning building? Which would you prefer if you had a choice?
Well, I'd have a third option, is that a woman or a man who had an equal...
Okay, so you're saying under all circumstances, okay, if you could hire any woman or any man, and you were trapped in a burning building, and you had a choice between a female candidate or a male candidate rescuing you, you would take the female candidate.
No, that's where we're not communicating, is that I would want the better one.
Okay, so who would be the better? Let's say I just blindly chose you. I told you, look, both of these candidates met the standard, the minimum standard, requirement for a firefighter. There was no affirmative action involved. Who would you take? The male candidate or the female candidate to rescue you if you had a choice and your life depended on it?
But I wouldn't care.
You wouldn't care. You had a choice. You had a pick. You had a pick. You just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You wouldn't care?
So, okay, no.
Your life is at stake. You're in a burning building. You have to choose between a male firefighter or a female firefighter. Who do you pick?
Okay, so let's say I pick the guy because
I'm asking you, who do you pick?
Well, if I pick the guy, then the girl could be stronger, and then I'd be screwed.
I'm asking you, who do you pick? You know that they're supposedly the same, they met the same minimum standards. There's no affirmative action involved. I want to know, from your own personal choice, who do you pick?
Okay, so I'll pick the guy.
Why? Why not the girl?
Well, that's the thing, is that there is no girl and no guy. I understand your point.
Well, if you understand my point, then you understand your point is ridiculous, because if my life depended on it, and I choose between a guy and a girl to rescue me, 1,000 times out of 1,000, I'm picking the guy. There's no way in hell I'm picking the girl.
Right. But, like I said, just because we have, prejudices against, about what people can do.
Prejudices? That's like saying you're prejudiced against metal objects so you don't want to get stabbed. It's called common sense. I'm prejudiced against the person who's not suited, their function isn't strength.
Right, that's your judgment, before you know who they are.
Yeah, that's based on common sense.
Yeah, but then, I understand that.
I'm asking you, you're saying you're prejudiced, okay, well, same question to you. Who would you choose if you're trapped in a burning building, so you're saying you're prejudiced, that's why you choose the guy, but if you're enlightened, you'd choose the girl. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm not saying that, I'm saying...
Well, what are you saying? I'm asking you clearly a straight question. You're in a burning building, your life is at stake, somebody's gotta get up 3 stories to get you, to rescue you, you got smoke inhalation, they gotta carry you down. Who do you choose, a man or a woman?
If that's the only thing I have to choose from, then I guess I would choose the man.
Why? Are you prejudiced?
Yes, because...
So if you were enlightened, so if you weren't prejudiced and you were enlightened, you would choose the woman.
I mean, we have to be prejudiced. That's what we do as humans. We prejudge situations. We rely on our past.
Yeah, but you're saying then it's a bad thing. You're implying that this prejudice would be a bad thing. I would be predisposed to picking a man over a woman for this physical job. You're saying that's a bad thing.
The person who hires.
What about the person who hires?
If I'm just going to tell you, you're in a burning building, should we send the man or the woman? And you say, well, which one's stronger? And the person says, I'm not going to tell you which one is stronger.
Then I would always send the man. If he didn't tell me, I would always send the man.
Right, I get that. That's fine. But
and even if he told me, I would still send the man. If he told me, I would still send the man.
If they told you that the woman was stronger, could lift more, and had a higher success rate,
well, if it was a job and they had to meet minimum qualifications, I know the man would always be stronger than the woman. Always.
I don't understand how, even if they just met the minimum and not more, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I know, in general, men are much stronger than women, and I know they're gonna choose the strongest firefighter. Obviously, it's gonna be a man. When is a woman ever gonna be a man as a firefighter in strength?
I'll have to research firefighting men and women.
You'll have to research. You can't do that math in your head. You actually think, you're silly enough to think that women out there on average are stronger than men, or that they have, stronger female firefighters than male firefighters. You're insane.
I didn't say that there would be more or even...
You said you had to research as if it's a tough question to answer. You're insane.
Well, you said when would a woman be a better firefighter
than
a man?
I mean, the fact that you even think you need to research, the fact that you even need to think and research this shows your insanity level here. I mean, any sane guy, if you ask him, you wouldn't have to even think about it. He knows because he's seen guys on average. He goes, of course guys are stronger. He has experience dealing with girls. He goes, of course women are weaker. It's not rocket science. It wouldn't be a shocking revelation if a study discovered that. The fact that you need to do research on it shows how insane you are, how brainwashed you are by feminism. You can't even use your own common sense to figure out that men are stronger than women.
Well, because there are some women who are stronger than some men.
Yeah, they're called exceptions to the rule. And even those strong women, there's always many more stronger men than that woman, than that exception.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between exceptions to the rule and then a majority or a minority.
Yeah, no shit, that's what I'm saying. Those are exceptions, those aren't majorities. Those strong women, those women who are stronger than men, those are exceptions to the rule. Those aren't the majority.
I know they're not majorities.
They're not majorities?
No, I said I know they're not majorities.
Yeah, so why even mention them then? If they're exceptions to the rule, why are they even relevant?
Well, because like when I've done, let's say, statistical analysis of real estate properties, right? There's always an exception that you leave out of the analysis. But then there's smaller percentages.
That's property. That's not biology. That's something that you build.
Well, in any statistical analysis, in any sort of software, is that you throw out the outliers.
Okay, and
those are exceptions.
Okay.
But then when you do the analysis and you come up with, let's say, a minority of, X's and Y's, there's a difference between exception and then, a minority of the population. So you're saying a
minority of the population of women are stronger than men. Again, equal amounts of insanity. You seriously think there's a majority, some minority population out there of women who are stronger than men? You must be comparing full-grown women to little boys. That maybe, but comparable, growth, comparable ages, even comparable weights, you're gonna still find men who are stronger than women. Even in the same weight class.
And I guess, so let's say, firefighting is out.
That leaves out police force as well, military, athletics. I wouldn't really call it a real occupation, but I'll even include athletics. Those are large portions of society right now that we have their physical jobs. Plumbers. How physical do plumbers need to be? Electricians, construction workers. There we go, construction workers.
I mean, that's what I don't understand is basically, aside from the professions that rely on being incredibly strong. Even the professions are out for you, like you said, electricians, plumbers. What about chefs?
What about chefs?
Like professional people who work, right? Professional chefs.
All right. What about chefs?
Is that a job that only a woman should perform? I guess.
I hate to tell you, but guys are the best chefs in the world. Even though women can cook.
Okay, so you're saying even though
women shouldn't, when we're talking about occupations, women shouldn't be in positions of authority or positions where their function is not suited. Something like a physicality where it's required, like a Marine or a firefighter or
Okay, I hear what you're saying about Marines and firefighters.
So we're eliminating those physical professions which aren't suited to a woman's body. Okay, we'll eliminate that. Then we're eliminating positions of authority where women shouldn't be in authority over men. Like,
why shouldn't
CEOs, leaders, captains of industry, those type of things, where women shouldn't have that authority. It's unnatural.
Okay, the authority, we haven't even touched on that. I mean, I guess, and I've never seen why you don't think women should have any sort of authority over a man in a workspace.
Well, it's the same as like with a relationship. When you put women in authority over a relationship, over a man in a relationship, that relationship is very unstable. It's a bad relationship by definition. So if you can extrapolate that further, you can see why it's a bad idea to put women in charge of men. I mean, we live in a society today that has women in charge of men, and that's why we have so many fucking problems. That's why we have such a high divorce rate. That's why we have so many social problems. That's why we have so many, that's why we have a shitty economy right now. I mean, who's in charge of all the spending? It's women. I mean, the fact that they're allowed to spend this money is ridiculous. This is why we get in these problems in the first place.
This is beyond what I know, or yeah, I have no response to that.
Well, I don't know what to tell you.
So I guess this is that. It's like if I had read that, and I don't know if I missed what you just said anywhere. I've seen that. I mean, I have a definite negative reaction to hearing.
I'm sure you do, just based on the physical issue we talked about. I'm sure you have other issues which are not so clear cut and dry, like men are much more intelligent than women. I'm sure you have an issue with that too. So
yeah,
it's not a stretch. It's not a stretch to know that you're going to have these, these.
I mean, at least
this adverse emotional reaction to what we're saying.
Okay, so muscular shape or muscle properties, skeletal issues. You know, I can understand saying generally men are stronger than that. I guess one of the biggest issues also was that intelligence. I heard you. I see you
right
a lot. Like I think back to my own education throughout my entire education. I wouldn't be able to tell you if more of my male.
I'm sorry, cut out. Go ahead, say that again. If more of your male what?
I wouldn't be able to tell you if the majority of the most intelligent people I knew were male or female. I mean, I feel like it's been conflicting in insanely smart people.
Well, I think the real problem here is education. Because you have women in charge of the educational system, you're sabotaging male ability.
I mean, how is that? I don't know. Oh, so you're saying because I didn't see the majority of males being like the smartest.
Like men today should definitely be the smartest in education in classes and colleges and whatnot. They're not. Why? Because the educational system is so shitty. It's based around women. I mean, we gotta coddle.
Believe that women are smarter, or that men are smarter.
There was definitely reason to believe men are smarter. Men are, throughout history, you've seen all the greatest inventions made by men. All the advancements in technology have been made by men. Men are geniuses. I mean, this academy was built by a man. The fact that our critics are afraid to debate us shows that men are smarter than women. I mean, we, of all people, demonstrate the competence and intelligence of men building something from nothing. That's a male function you see all the time. And the fact that we have to coddle women, we can't even have the debate. I mean, how many times have you heard, women are smarter than men in popular media? You hear that all the time. Why don't you hear the reverse, that men are smarter than women? Why is it outlawed? Why is it outlawed to even make that notion in a sitcom or in a newspaper? Why are comments censored? I mean, we have comments that are censored or considered hate speech. Is it considered hate speech to say that women are smarter than men? No. It's a notion that's even seriously studied. But if you were to say the reverse, men are smarter than women, you'd instantly be called a misogynist. You'd instantly be demonized. Why? Because people are threatened by the truth. They're not threatened by silly fairy tales. Nobody's threatened by the notion that women are smarter than men. I mean, we know it's a fairy tale. Some guys like you seriously discuss it, but the fact that you can't even have the debate or the discussion about whether men are smarter than women already tells me the truth. It's obvious that men are smarter than women. You would never have to censor anything that you feared. Any truth that you feared coming out. You would never have to censor the conversation. The very fact that women can't even debate us, other than just rage quitting and leaving during our debates, that tells you right there they're not smart enough to compete with a man.
I haven't heard, and I say this, hopefully I won't sound like an idiot either, or two, but I haven't heard men or women debate you, very well.
Yeah, we're still waiting for an intelligent woman to come debate us. We won't hold our breath. We know they're not out there.
Right. I mean, okay, so there's you and the debates, and then there's inventors throughout,
yes.
The history of.
When male capacity is exercised properly, you'll see geniuses shine. You'll see male ingenuity shine. When you have female teachers leading the educational system, you're going to see men that sound retarded. They're a product of their environment. They're a product of single mothers. They're a product of a poor educational system. No wonder men sound like retards today. They've been trained by women. If you put me in charge of training these men, you'll see the results that we get at the academy.
So you're saying with male teachers, men shine, and with female teachers, females shine.
With female, yeah, well, if the educational system is geared towards women, yes, obviously.
Well, I mean, that's kind of one of the feminist ways of viewing educational history is that, throughout at least the U.S. public school system is that education was geared towards men and not women.
Who created the educational, who's in charge of writing a book? Who's in charge of discovering things? Women make it sound like they're not allowed to discover anything, or they're not allowed to write anything knowledgeable, or they're not allowed to, teach anything. If women were really that bright, they would have taught themselves.
Well, what about men then?
Well, I'm self-taught. I'm a prime example of an inventor, a teacher, a guide. I'm self-taught. I've learned things growing up, but the amount of things that I teach guys here at the academy, you won't find in a public school. You won't find it at a university. In fact, stuff like this is outlawed.
Right, but when people come back to you and say, like, there have been women inventors or whatever, you've always downplayed their...
Yeah, because they come to me with women who have invented the paperclip or the rolling pin or ABC blocks, things that I could have invented if I wasn't busy inventing a car or a computer. I mean, if a woman is clapping because she invented the windshield wiper, you don't think a man could have invented the windshield wiper in a heartbeat if he wasn't busy inventing a steam engine? I mean, men are busy doing important things.
Like, okay, I mean, so you're saying the Manhood Academy is better than the windshield?
What?
What I don't understand.
Oh, you are definitely trained by a female. You can't even think logically. I'm giving an example of something, and you're extrapolating that where there's no extrapolation.
Well, you're saying you're self-taught in a world of, let's say, female-dominated education system.
Yes.
Which is fine. I know that writing a book takes a lot of work. I don't want to talk negatively about what you've done because I know it's taken a lot of work to do what you do.
Yes. I've written that, with the help of another guy, wrote that book, without any formal, training on how to write a book, and I've come up with such an intelligent document that's affected men around the world.
Right. So living in male-dominated society throughout the years, women invented things like the windshield wiper. So? Right.
Big deal. That's all I gotta say. Big deal. I mean, again.
Big deal to the windshield wiper, but yours.
Who the fuck cares about the windshield wiper? I could have invented that if I wasn't busy inventing the car.
Cool. Okay.
It's like, look, you're making it sound like if a woman wasn't there to invent the windshield wiper, it never would have been invented.
Well, why was it not there to be invented?
What did I just tell you? Men were busy inventing the fucking car.
The car itself. Okay, fine.
Men don't concentrate on these silly little things that can be invented as an afterthought. Like, as soon as I'm done inventing the car, if no one was around to invent that windshield wiper, I would have thought, oh gee, it's raining. Oh gee, the rain is inhibiting my vision when I'm driving. Oh, I need to make an invention as a man because I'm intelligent. I realize I need to be able to see while I'm driving. Something that clears the water off the window. Oh, maybe I'll make a windshield wiper. Oh, maybe I'll make something to clear the water off, a spray, some air. I would have used my ingenuity as a man and figured out the problem. This is a non-essential problem. The first problem is how to get from point A to point B. Without the car, the windshield wiper is useless.
Okay, can we go back to something you just said a little while ago?
Yes.
It was, cause you said big deal, they invented what did you,
the windshield wiper, big deal.
So you're saying, what you said was so in a female-dominated educational system or world or whatever, these men are being left behind, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then when you said, when people talk to you about, the women who overcome the male-dominated education system,
what?
I had a thought, and now it's gone.
I don't know.
I don't know. It sounded like you were saying for men who are in these female-run institutions,
yes,
that they can't possibly overcome that because
they can, but not if like I overcame it. But that's like that. I'm like one of the leaders of men versus the average guy who doesn't have access to a mentor or a guy who can train him properly. He won't exercise his full capacity. He'll be very limited. Like there's many retarded sounding guys when they first come to our academy that have a wealth of ability that hasn't even been developed yet because they've been a product of the feminist education system. If you get a guy like me at a university, that university will fucking shock the hell out of you. You will see ability coming out of men you never even dreamed of.
I mean, it sounds like when you say that, you're excusing all of these men who can't overcome their situations, right?
Yeah, but I know how difficult it was to overcome my situation, and I had the cards stacked against me, so I know with a man with less capacity than me, it's gonna be much more difficult to overcome that, to overcome all the obstacles he has ahead of him. That shouldn't even be there.
I mean, and I guess it's from the other point. I mean, it's the same. That's how feminists or someone like you would say it is before feminism started getting stronger.
Yeah, but feminists try to make it sound like being taken care of was an obstacle. That's how dumb feminists are. They make it sound like when men were in charge and earning all the money in the economy and women didn't have access to jobs, they made it sound like a bad thing, like they weren't being taken care of. These same feminists who say, oh, men are being mean to us, how many of them died in wars? How many of them sacrificed their lives to defend women? Right? You ever hear that? You ever hear that defense from feminists? You ever hear that story from feminists? Oh yeah, men were busy oppressing us. Oh, by the way, mostly men died in wars to save women. You ever hear that? You ever hear most fatalities on the job site are male? You ever hear that from feminists? Who made all the sacrifices at these jobs, supposedly where men were oppressing them and didn't let women into the workforce? Who made all these fucking sacrifices? Who died out there on the job? Was it women? Do you hear that from feminists? You hear any gratitude from feminists? From all the death in wars and jobs? Two basic things in life?
No.
No, you don't. So where's this oppression coming from? If anything, it's men that are being oppressed. They're being oppressed by having a duty to serve ungrateful women.
Oh, I mean, the oppression is...
Oppression is where? What's more oppressive? Dying or having some perceived problem like I can't work as a secretary because I'm not allowed to work in the workforce or I'm getting paid less? Which is more oppressive? Dying or this little contrived problem?
No, I see what you're saying. So, but you don't want women to be in the military, though.
Yeah, no shit. Just like I don't want them to be firefighters. I don't want them to put people's lives at risk. Right. You don't think it's a risk to put a female firefighter on the force and then run into a burning building and she can't fucking rescue him because she didn't fucking meet the minimum requirements because of affirmative action?
Yeah, I get the firefighting.
Yeah, well, the same applies to the police or the military. They don't have the capacity, the same male capacity. So the other male soldiers are going to risk their lives unnecessarily to defend a woman in their unit.
Right, so even if you were a feminist, you still wouldn't want women in the military or firefighters.
Even if I was a feminist, why would I ever be a feminist in the first place?
Because, well, once again, we disagree on the definition of feminism, so. Why would you be a feminist? Because you believe that men and women should have equal access to opportunities?
Yeah, but I'm not that stupid. I'm not stupid like you. I'm not stupid enough to assume that women are just as intelligent as men or women are just as physical as men. I'm not that stupid. Why would I ever be a feminist? You keep ignoring the way you've been so trained by feminists in your thinking or so-called rationalization that you're acknowledging my arguments and that yet at the end of it your conclusion is, oh, you're not a feminist? As if these arguments don't even apply. You don't even apply the past argumentation to your future arguments. That's how poorly trained you are in reasoning. Like you should, if you learn from this argument or if you acknowledge my argument, then you would no longer make this general statement like, why wouldn't you be a feminist? They're just for equality. When we just covered how that was a false notion, how that's a fraudulent proposition. You and me just covered that just now, and yet you go back to stating the exact same thing as if those arguments didn't even apply. Of course you've been trained by women.
I was responding to your anger.
Anger? Even though I have anger in my voice or like, obviously my voice is agitated. I'm agitated because you're so silly, you're so ridiculous, you're so trained by a woman, you don't even realize it. I just pointed out to you how we just covered these arguments over here, and then now you're proposing a proposition. You're making the claim that feminists are just about equality when we just got through discussing how that's a bullshit notion of equality, and then you're trying to just make the same argument as a conclusion, as if those arguments weren't just made. That's utter silliness, and you're trying to accuse me of being emotional?
No, what I was saying was when you were criticizing feminism for not saying women should be in the military, which I don't know maybe enough about. I don't know.
You don't know enough about. You don't know whether women are as strong as men or men are stronger than women. You don't know you have no practical experience with that.
What I was saying was that I don't know that some feminists don't advocate for women in the military because I think some do.
I think some do too. Yeah. They actually do. You're correct. They do. But they're ridiculous if they think that women are qualified.
Right, but what you were saying was that feminists don't.
Yeah, by and large they don't. You're right. I'm acknowledging some feminists do, but that's a very small majority of feminists. Or I'm sorry, that's a very very small minority of feminists who think that women should be in the military. Most feminists want to have all the benefits of being a man without all the responsibility. So most feminists say like for example, women should be paid the same as men, but they shouldn't have to work in the same jobs, the same hard job. They shouldn't have to be janitors, construction workers. So that's like feminists of convenience, which is most feminists. Then there's the hardcore feminists.
Wait, stop, because what you just said, I mean, I think a lot of people would say that, I understand what you're saying, that there's the studies of people say women make less than men,
right,
but then those are based on different jobs, right?
Right.
I think if you ask most people who would claim to be feminists, they would say that a woman in the same job with the same performance should be paid the same, and I don't know.
Right, but the fact that right, that you're right. Most women would say that, but the fact that they subscribe to the feminist fraudulent proposition that women are just simply paid less just because they're women, when the economists, there's so many experts out there who've debunked that bullshit notion based on the feminists' own statistics. I mean, they don't take into account that what most people, when they talk about the wage gap, all they talk about is women being paid less than men. They don't talk about the occupations that they're comparing, or they don't cover the raw number of work hours. I mean, those simple basic facts they don't even cover. And they're part of the argument. If men work more hours on average than women, shouldn't you be paid more for working more hours? Of course. That's just common sense, but women don't even know that that's part of the argument.
But I think if you bring that up,
we brought it up hundreds of times. Women just put their fingers in their ears.
I think some of the people who you've spoken to have put their fingers in their ears, yes.
Yeah, that's most of the people we've spoken to. Most women, when we tell them that, they're like, "Oh, fingers in my ears. Who cares? Just give me more money."
And what I want to know is who are these feminists? Because I said, some feminists would
all the women and men we've spoken to out the years who've said they're feminists or have come to argue with us, those people, they are the ones that are putting their fingers in their ears. They're the ones we're challenging to debates like this that don't even bother to show up.
I guess who are the feminists that are leading what you think is the feminist agenda? If you say some feminists are for women being in the military, some feminists would agree that
anybody in the common media that you see in CNN that are writing in journals and blogs are commonly referenced, Feministing, Jezebel.com, Feminist,
in your ebook you reference,
CNN.
The Frisky, Oprah, The View, and you do reference.
Yeah, we reference a large sample of what women are exposed to. Like, for instance, millions of women are exposed to Oprah. That's why we reference Oprah.
But she's not really, her network isn't really a feminist network.
What, are you fucking high? She's the dictionary definition of a feminist.
I don't think her views necessarily are feminist.
Oh, they're definitely feminist in nature. They're definitely 100% feminist in nature.
Towards women, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're feminist, or they're...
Well, then you don't understand the definition of feminism. That is feminist in nature, where she wants to give authority to women and put women in authority positions over men. That's definitely feminist in nature.
Well, and that's where we disagree on what feminism means, I guess. Because you think it's women over men, and most of the feminists I know, and the feminist blogs I read, and the magazines I read...
There are definitely feminists who state what you claim, like we're just for equal rights for men and women. But again, that notion is a bullshit fraudulent notion, because to do that, I mean, how is it not already equal? You'd have to imply that it wasn't already, there wasn't already some notion of equality in the past. They're implying that they were oppressed in the past and it's changing now. I mean, that would have to imply that women were making the same sacrifices as men in the past, which is complete and utter bullshit. Again, who died in all the wars? Men or women? Who's still dying in, over 90% in the workforce today? Men or women? Men! So if that's still currently today, men are dying on the job, over 90%, then how is there ever oppression? How could you ever even talk about oppression? You're dead! How could you compare oppression? Somebody dying to somebody having, I'm not getting enough money. Who's more oppressed?
Well, then maybe, like you said, you can't compare it. So why can't you talk about both groups being oppressed in different ways?
Well, then how could you even, no, because feminists are saying that only women are oppressed.
I don't think feminists
they're definitely saying that.
No, I mean,
yeah,
I don't think
feminists commonly make fun of MRAs, for even complaining about these problems, saying, oh, patriarchy. Oh, you men white males have always been in charge. White males have never been oppressed. How could they ever make that claim?
I see what you're saying. I mean, but being a white male, saying that being a white male is being oppressed does sound silly to me.
Right, but that's commonly what feminists say. So they sweep these arguments under the bus. They sweep these concerns under the bus. They sweep male issues under the bus. I mean, false rape allegations, right? That ruin men's lives. Commonly swept under the bus by feminists.
Right, and does that mean that we should work towards real rape allegations
Well, why are we addressing rape? Why do we even give a fuck about rape if men's lives are being destroyed by false rape allegations and women don't want to do anything about it? Why the fuck should we ever care about rape issues? What's the incentive?
Is that
more false rape allegations?
Because people are being hurt and violently attacked.
No, because that's creating more false rape allegations. More false rape allegations, more men's lives being destroyed. Why the fuck should we care about women if you're supposedly for equality? Why the fuck should you even care about women's issues if nobody's there to care about men's issues and you're supposedly for equality?
See, I've never heard anyone say that we shouldn't care about false rape allegations.
Yeah. You know why? Because it's fucking censored. It's considered hate speech. That's why you don't hear about it in the news. People don't even talk about it in the news. If we didn't talk about it, it wouldn't be talked about.
No, I've never heard anyone say we shouldn't care about false rape.
Oh, well then you obviously haven't talked to the feminists we've talked to because the majority of feminists say that.
Do they say we don't care about false
Yes,
rape?
they fucking say stop whining. They say it's not even an issue, bro. It's only 1%, or it's not even relevant. Meanwhile, we post stories every day.
Well, see, I think that's a valid argument, though. I think it's a valid addition to the discussion.
Yeah, no shit, but feminists want to censor the discussion. So why should we ever pretend that feminists are for equality when they try to censor debate, try to censor discussion about the issues?
There's different waves of feminism throughout the history of feminism, and so feminism is always changing, so.
Yeah, and it's always been bullshit. It's changed from one notion of bullshit to another notion of bullshit. We prove that every time. This is why we hold these debates, to call out these con artists, these frauds.
Well, so just because the feminists you've talked to have said, and I don't think I remember hearing any of the people you've talked to say that false rape accusations don't matter. But does that mean just because they say that, now you don't care about real rape?
Yeah, that's exactly what it means, because if there's nobody there to care about false rape allegations, I know you're not going to do it, you just heard about it today. Why should I care about rape? Why should I even care about that issue if men's lives are being destroyed and nobody's taking care of men? Why should I care about women?
I guess just based on who I am, I find that a horrible attitude to take.
Well, I find your attitude horrible that you would let men die in war, die on the job, and not care about that and say, oh, women are being oppressed. I find that to be a ridiculously childish attitude.
Why would I not care? I don't understand why.
Your whole argument says you don't care. You're arguing women should have equal opportunity. Meanwhile, you don't even acknowledge that men are dying on the job sacrificing for women. That shows you don't care about men.
No women ever die for men.
The fact that you're so fucking stupid and you even make that claim is indicative of your childish mentality. Yes, of course there are women that die for men. But again, you are such an idiot. You reference the exception to the rule. If I say 90% of the people, if I say 99 out of 100 men died for a woman, and then there's one woman over here who died for a man, you're focusing on the exception to the rule and ignoring these 99 deaths. That makes you a child. That makes you a short-sighted child.
Okay, so dying, I guess I've never thought of it in this sense. So this
yeah, no shit. No shit, because you've been educated by women who are thoughtless. When you're educated by a man, you get a real education. You realize, whoa, if this many men are dying in wars and on the job, that might be a serious issue to consider. That might be a serious issue that's been overlooked by women. Maybe I should investigate that. Maybe I should use my brain and consider whether oppression of not having the opportunity to have a job versus dying is a serious consideration in the equation here of inequality. Maybe that's a serious issue I should address. If you had male education, a guy training you to think rationally, you would realize how ridiculous and childish you sound.
What are you trying to say? Is that the number of deaths equals what? How much you should care about someone?
Okay, so you're saying, so then what's the metric for caring about women's oppression? What's your metric for caring about this oppression? Give me your equation now.
Is that people shouldn't be oppressed, regardless.
Shouldn't be oppressed. What's that? What's oppressed? So I'm paid less. Oh, that's just as valid an oppression as a guy dying on the job or dying in a war. It's the same thing to you, right?
No, nothing is the same.
Oh, nothing.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why.
You don't realize how retarded you sound? This is a perfectly sensible argument to you? You don't sound like a retard at all to yourself when you make this claim that, oh, nobody should be oppressed. As if not getting paid the same is the same as a guy dying on a job. You don't think there's any disparity in your view there?
I said, so you're saying, they're not the same.
Yeah, no shit, they're not the same. That's my whole point.
So you only care about the oppression of people who die.
Well, I think it's more important to care about people who die than people who don't get paid the same, don't you? Or obviously not, you don't. I think that the fact that you are so dumb, you don't even realize that people dying is much more significant and much more of an immediate concern than people not getting paid enough. The fact that you don't even have the brain power to grasp the idiocy of that argument shows how you've been trained by women. You think a death is less significant than a guy or a woman not getting paid the same? Are you seriously trying to make that argument?
No, but a woman.
You just said that. You just said I shouldn't care. It's the same notion, bro. Just worry about oppression, about not being paid the same. Meanwhile, people are dying. You put that in the same ballpark.
You're also anti-war.
Anti-what? What?
Are you? I mean, I've always been anti-war, right? I don't like people dying.
Yeah, that's like saying you're anti-guns or you're anti-people getting shot. Yeah, duh. I mean, that's like saying I'm anti getting punched in the face. But if somebody's attacking me, if somebody's trying to break into my house, there's an issue of protection, of protecting your loved ones, of protecting your property, versus just saying across the board, I'm anti people getting hurt. I mean, that's such a silly argument to say. Of course, everybody's anti getting hurt. Of course, everybody's anti getting war. People don't get into war just because they want to get into war.
Well, some people finance wars because they want money. But.
Okay, so when we're talking about Hitler, in World War II, we just went to war just because we, wanted some cash? We're killing people just because we want some cash?
I've listened to way too much WBAI
I know wars currently are started over, oil concerns and things like that, of that nature. But there are, okay, let's drop wars out of the equation. Let's just talk about domestic, issues like, somebody breaking into your house. It's a little more practical. People can relate to that.
What you're saying is that I should only be focused on men dying in war and fire.
You should be more focused on serious issues is my point, versus saying, if somebody's dying on the job force or in a war, that to me is a more serious issue than somebody not getting paid enough. That to me has a priority. Just like if I was treating people, by your rationale, people with splinters, should be treated just as much as or should have just as, the same priority as people who had their arms or legs blown off in a Boston bomber, massacre, because we should treat everybody equally. Oh, this guy's a splinter, he warrants an hour of attention versus this guy over here missing a limb. Oh, we should just treat them the same.
That's a silly view of equality.
Yeah, that's how silly you are. That's how silly you are. That's my point.
You're gonna leave the splinter in while you go save people from the battlefield?
What?
Are you going to leave your splinter in, or are you gonna take it out? I don't see why
you are so dumb. It's hard to argue with you. You've been so poorly trained in reasoning, it's hard to reason with you. I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss for words. I mean, your arguments are so absurd. Your arguments are so absurd. You can't even follow a simple analogy I'm trying to make.
Yeah, your analogy was that someone dying from the Boston bombing was more important than a splinter. Yeah.
Yeah. How could you not see the logic in that? I'm trying to make this analogous to you, that people dying on the job is more important, a focus than somebody not getting paid the same.
Right. So you never focus on people not getting paid. That's what you're saying. So
why wouldn't I focus on the deaths, the 90% death toll from males versus somebody not getting paid enough?
What is this 90% death toll? What?
So the statistic or the stat that I've been pointing out for the past half hour here, you're just oblivious to it? I mean, this shows your childish reasoning capacity. I've just been explaining it over and over and over again, and you're like, what is this? What is this? How can I argue with you when you're too dumb to even remember what I said repeatedly?
Well, maybe I haven't been focusing on it.
Yeah, no shit.
No, I mean, I've been hearing you say, that men die more in work-related incidents and in wars, whatever. But what does that 90% refer to? Out of curiosity.
To men! Dying compared to women! Men compared to women! Who dies on the job? That's what that's referring to. That's why I've been repeating it over and over and over again to you. To try to get through your thick skull.
I mean, that was just a minor issue.
Minor issue, yeah. Men dying on the job in record numbers, just a minor issue.
I mean, that's not what I said, so.
I don't know what you're saying, because you can't even make an intelligent, rational argument.
Alright.
I don't know what to tell you. I can argue with a critic who has a rational point, but, I mean, I pretty much, deconstructed all your silly points. I don't know what else to say.
Well, you keep saying, I mean, I don't know how much longer we can talk about it, but you keep saying that because men die more than women, it would be foolish to focus on anything else.
Yeah, I think it would be very foolish.
Okay, I don't see how that's even possible. That's like saying why, when people are researching AIDS, AIDS cures, why aren't they working on cancer? Why are you working on prostate cancer?
Because cancer is a pretty big deal. If you're trying to make an analogous argument that not getting paid the same is the same as, cancer, and men dying in wars or dying on the job is like AIDS, it's such a retarded argument. It's such a retarded comparison. Well, cancer is deadly. AIDS is deadly. Not getting paid the same is not deadly.
But that's not all of feminism. I mean, I guess you've been saying that so often.
Yeah, but the fact that you just made this retarded analogy and tried to apply it to this case shows how deluded you are.
You just, in all of your examples, you're reducing feminism to not getting paid the same as if it's like...
That's one example. We're talking about the wage gap. I'm bringing up this example to show the absurdity of feminism when they try to talk about women being oppressed.
Right, and I mean, it's kind of absurd to say that you cannot talk about anything.
We can talk about anything, but I'm talking about where our priorities and focus should be.
I mean, but different people have different focuses and
priorities.
Yeah,
dumb people focus on dumb things, just like you focus on the silly feminism notion that women are getting paid less. Dumb people do that. They focus on the trees. Smart people, like me, focus on the forest. We focus on the real problems. We focus on the root causes that'll address the other problems. It's just like if you have cancer, and by the way, it's causing a bloody nose. Well, if we cure the cancer, then the bloody nose issue will fix itself. Meanwhile, you're so busy focused on the bloody nose, you don't realize the root cause is cancer. If you fix the cancer, you don't have to focus on the bloody nose.
Alright.
If you fix, women's notion of gratitude or what they're getting from the deal here where men have to work and slave and bring home the bacon to support women, you will get rid of the notion of, we're not being paid enough, because then women will realize men are making a sacrifice. That has a dollar value. So there really is no thought of getting paid less because they're getting other benefits that aren't monetary in nature. For instance, you're getting protection. You're not having to die on the job. See, if we address the root cause, then we deal with the childish mentality that results from it. Whereas you're just focused on the childish mentality as if that's the real issue.
Alright. I mean, I don't think we can keep talking about this, or else.
I agree.
We'll say the same thing.
I agree. And this is why we need to have these debates. We need to see how silly feminists like you are, and we need to see how rational the male position is. That's why we need guys like me arguing our position. Because when the public scrutinizes this debate, and they hear your reasoning and they hear my reasoning, it becomes blatantly obvious what is the silly position, feminism, and what is the valid position, men's issues, men's concerns, men's agenda in the world today. Because men have both genders' interests at heart. They realize that the male gender is tied to the female gender. So when we improve the condition of men, we're by proxy improving the condition of women. That's what feminists don't see. That's why we need to have these debates. The very fact that feminists try to censor these debates tells us all we need to know about the feminist position. We've only, people have accused us of saying, you're going to alter the debates, you're going to edit the debates. The only people we've had censor our debates are feminists because they withdrew their consent to have the debate released. We have 2 debates. Feminists have withdrawn their consent from. Say, you probably said, we'll sue you. When initially they gave their consent. Why? If they were so interested in the truth coming out, why would they try to censor these debates?
Yeah, I saw that. I know you're right about that.
The only reason why they're doing that is because they're full of shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I know you're very good at what you do. And
we're very good at making sense because we're putting ourselves under public scrutiny, which feminism refuses to do. They censor things because they don't want the public scrutiny. That's why they have such outlandish, fraudulent, dangerous views, because they don't welcome the public to scrutinize their work. We welcome the public to criticize us and scrutinize us so that we can be sure that what we're saying is accurate and truthful. That's the whole reason why you want public scrutiny. You want people to scrutinize your work. You want to be a good scientist. You want to have the peer review. You need that.
Yeah, honestly, I wish more people would call in, or video in.
I wish too. The more debates we get, the clearer the picture becomes.
Can I say something last? And
Go for it.
This is one thing when I started to actually like you a little bit.
No.
And it was with the dude who, it was the retort versus response.
Retort
you remember that?
Response.
There was a guy who was debating you, and he kept talking about, he was an academic,
I got you. Yeah.
And he said, what's your response, or something, you said
retort. What's your retort? And I said, that's not the same as my response or something like that.
Yeah, and he said it didn't matter, and I thought, that was the moment I actually started to like you a little bit. Even though I hate most of what you stand for, I started to respect you at that point. Even though I disrespect your views, obviously.
Right. So, but again, it's important to have these debates because the more your work is scrutinized, the more my work is scrutinized, the more people will either criticize us or start criticizing you, and then you'll have to take a hard look at yourself, or I'll have to take a hard look at myself and say, what we're teaching here is bad. We need to change it. Or you'll start saying, oh, wait, I thought I had a valid point I was arguing, and now people are criticizing me. That I need to change what I'm looking at.
What the response is.
Yes. This is why we need the public scrutiny.
Don't think I'm wrong. I know that I've tripped up and that.
Well, you definitely tripped up, and we have it here for the public to scrutinize. So this is the key point where people start seeing these arguments, and they start developing their opinions about feminism and about what we're teaching here, and they start to see the real picture. Are we really bad guys that are teaching this He-Man Woman Haters Club, or do we have valid points? Is the feminist position valid? Are women really oppressed, or is it just smoke and mirrors? This is what we need to see. We need to have these debates, because if feminists are truthful and they really are do have a case that women are oppressed, they would benefit from the public scrutiny. They wouldn't try to censor debate. They would actually want the debate.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think.
But the fact that they avoid debate tells you all you need to know. So if we can rope in a feminist any way, shape and form to these debates, we'll do it. We always put the challenge out there. We always put the challenge out there. They know where to find us.
I know. And I actually respect how you treat all your debaters. I mean, there's obviously the name calling and some things are derogatory, but the way you treat.
Yeah, it's not like, people always think we're gonna do the common accusation we get in debates is, you're gonna shout over me, you're gonna talk over me, you're not gonna give me my turn to say my piece, and you're just gonna call me names. It's such a childish, argument, because we have a whole history of our debates, out there. So people know how we argue. We've had debates without moderators where people have end up shouting over each other, but we always argue for the moderator. We always say we want to have a moderator there so you can't make that accusation. We always say, look, we're going to end the debate when you're comfortable ending it, right? We're not when we're done, when we made a point and say, oh, sorry, good night, we're not going to give this guy his chance to say it. If we talk over you, we're going to give you extra time to make your points, right? People have talked over us. You notice we don't cry like little bitches about people talking over us when people have interrupted us in the middle of points. We welcome it. This should be a back and forth dialogue, a discussion, even a disagreement. Somebody challenges you on a point, you shouldn't be allowed to keep going on the, your steam train, your head of steam, and make all these other assumptions based off of this false assumption. We should address the false assumption first. So we fully believe in that. That's why we need these debates, to stop people in their tracks and say, to accept the challenge and say, whoa, I'm challenging this assumption. Before you go any further, answer this question, answer this challenge. And our opponents can't do that. And we welcome that to us. Stop us in our tracks. We'll answer too. So we like to get everybody's point of view out on the board in full, and our debates fully demonstrate that. We don't cut people off. That guy that little bitch lawyer who we debated, who said at the end, he's two-faced. At the end of his debate, he posted another video and said, oh, they don't give us an opportunity to express my views in full. They talked over me. We say, you cowardly little faggot, come back and debate us in full. We'll have no time limit. You'll have all the opportunity to say your piece. Any points you didn't get in, write them down. We'll hear them out in full. That's why we have the moderator, to make sure that they get their say.
I think that's obvious to anyone who watches your videos. The least they can say is that you're very fair.
Yeah, we don't coach the audience to give opinions. We don't let people, and also, notice in other debates, the feminists try to bait us into debating on their side, but that's because they want to debate me versus like 5 people at once, because they want to shout over me or have 1,000 people attack me at once. You notice we have a large audience. This is small for a debate right now. If we announced this debate beforehand, we'd have a large audience. And with our large audiences, we don't let our audience interrupt. We don't make this into a gang beating, we're not here to trick you and go, aha, now we got 1,000 people arguing against you at once. They're called to give their an intelligent opinion, or, that's it. At the end, we poll the audience. And even I've criticized audience members and, in the audience for their opinion. So it's not like we have some setup here where we fake these debates. It's not an O'Reilly debate where he gets the last word, we get to shout over you. I'll let you have the last word. Opponents want the last word, I'll give them the last word. Because I feel like we're willing to let our argument that we've made during debate stand the test of public scrutiny. And then if they have anything to say after that, fine, no problem.
Awesome. Okay, well, when you post a debate, I'll watch it.
Go ahead. Watch it, we'll put it up there.
And I'd love to do this again when I have more.
Come back. Hey, we always have an open challenge to any of our critics. We don't cut anybody off, even if they did poorly in their first debate. Come back. We welcome you back. We welcome our critics. That's always been our policy here.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. All right. Looks like we got another debate down. Let's go to audience reaction. Anybody that was listening? Barrick, you've been here the longest. Any reaction? Barrick, I know you initially said you'd only be here 5 minutes, like the little coward you are, but we know you get wet for these debates. Barrick, let's hear your candid reaction.
Yeah, I thought it was at some points it was really frustrating to listen to, because it's obvious that his perspective was really shaped by feminism, and especially when you're talking about the physical differences between men and women, and it was just bizarre to me to hear him to even think that we are equal when the strength level is so different between the two sexes.
Yeah, I was eating yesterday, and I heard behind me, this woman talking about, hey, bro, you want to work on upper body or lower body today? And like it sounded like, dudes I've heard talking about when they schedule their workouts together and we're like, we're gonna hit our traps today and then our delts later. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm betting she's a big girl. And I turn around, this guy's a monster, and she's just like, she's got some definition, but she's by no means even in his weight class. So, it's such a silly, absurd argument. You could see guys just walking around and this guy is obviously stronger. It's not even a close call that men are stronger than women on average.
Yeah, it was just really bizarre to me because, I've done, I sparred with women in like jiu-jitsu and, kickboxing and stuff like that, and, even when I was like a white belt, and I was going against someone with like years and years of experience, and we've been like a similar weight, I had to pull back and not even use like 20% of my energy to be able to be like on an even level with them, and like in sparring and stuff like that, I didn't feel any physical danger, or any physical stress, or anything of that sort. And also like on a intelligence level, I feel the perspective was really school based. Like he was basing all his intelligence on grades or graduation rate or something like that.
Common feminist notion of waving your diploma in the air. This is how smart I am. Look at my diploma.
But when our education system isn't really, I feel it's like it's not a proper standard to measure intelligence because it's so fucked up and so it's in such bad shape. A majority of the innovators in our current era are all men, and most of them didn't even rely on the education system to get to that level, like Steve Jobs or
right.
Bill Gates or any of those people. So I just felt like this whole perspective was really skewed, and it was frustrating to listen to.
Okay. Anybody else that was here? Duckface, did you hear any of the debate?
Yeah, I heard most of it, and I think it was Courageous that came in here, and yeah, that's what I thought about it. And when he spoke, like, sometimes it was difficult to follow him because he as you said, he went from one point to something that was so absurd to connect those two arguments. I can't remember exactly what they were right now, but I was a bit shocked about the whole thing, like his expression versus your expression, and yeah.
Okay.
I'm a bit in shock.
You're still in shock. You still post-traumatic stress disorder from the debate. Rocky, you got anything? Oh, go ahead, Pinata.
I just think that, again, Professor, you go through these guys like it's nothing, and it seems like a lot of these guys that you debate seem that they're in denial. They try to circumvent your questions with a political answer. Well, depending on the recent information of such studies, as opposed to giving you a direct answer to a question like, who's smarter man or woman, or who's stronger man or woman. They always try to circumvent it to favor their stupid ideologies or feminist thought ideologies. If women were really as physically smart or physically adept as men, then we would all be watching the WNBA.
Yes.
Why is soccer, like the World Cup, men play that shit, not women?
Well.
When the WNBA finally manages to have as many fans and viewers as the NBA, then I'll tell you, yes, men are stronger and physically adept as men. But until then, hell no.
Yeah, that's a great example, the WNBA, where they have a attendance of 2,000 to 5,000 people, because people, don't want to watch high schoolers make layups. If you have a guy who can already 360 dunk and move twice as fast as a woman, why would you go backwards? Why would you watch a boring slow game, a slow version of the game, when you already have the best version of the game possible? Why would you watch a slow version of it? It makes no sense.
Exactly. Same thing with boxing. Why do men dominate boxing? They have the physically they are tougher, they are stronger. Plus, itself, the whole argument on itself, maybe now that I have more knowledge of it, seems just ridiculous that a man would think that a woman is stronger or can be as stronger and as fast as a guy.
Well, like you said, there were exceptions to the rule, but those don't disprove the rule. And even for the exceptions, there's always a guy that's stronger than the exception. Rocky.
Yeah,
anything?
I agree.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Anything else, Pinata?
No, that's it. I'm at work. I gotta go.
Okay. Rocky.
Thanks, you. When he started talking about the firefighter job, I immediately thought about the police force in my country, because sometimes I see the police intervention when, something happens and the police has to come. It's usually like one cop car comes and then another one. You know why?
Why?
Because in one there's men and women. There has to be another cop car so the guys can go and check what's up and the girls are sitting in the car. So I was like, is this idiot even thinking about what may happen? I mean, time passes, right? You don't know what may happen in those 5 minutes. Every second counts. And it's like their views are more important to feminists than actual safety of the people of anything like this.
Yeah, that's a tragic thing. They're so childish, they don't realize all the lives they're putting at risk when they take these jobs that should go to men.
Yeah, exactly. I had that feeling that he was fighting against his self-esteem. Like, on the one hand, he believed what you're saying, but those other feminist concepts sunk into his mind so deep that he had really trouble accepting your view, I would say. But
yeah, I think it was interesting that we had argued points, and then at the very end he came back to the same proposition he made in the beginning. So why are you against equality? Or just some simple, absurd, simplistic statement, some oversimplification of the problem, when we just got through discussing all the flaws with that line of reasoning.
And I was thinking of another thing. The evidence that men are more intelligent than women is just those debates. How many men were stripping in here? How many men rage quit with tears? Was there anyone? No.
There were feminist men that rage quit.
Yeah, they rage quit but I remember only one guy.
You see, we've had two guys. I think we have 2 guys rage quit on us. We had the Canadian guy,
yeah,
who withdrew his consent, and was there another guy? I think there was one other guy that rage quit on us. But most of them have been chicks rage quitting.
Yeah, exactly. So, even though men are educated by women, they're still more intelligent than women. So, what would happen if the education was proper? What if the men were educated? What would happen?
They would turn out to be the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, I get excited.
You get excited, alright. Slow Guy, did you catch any of the debate, Slow Guy? Slow Guy with a slow microphone? Wake up. Oh, he can't. Okay. Thank you guys for a wonderful debate. We'll see you next time.